Jim, you want to tell us a little bit about an actual adoption scenario?
Sure, thanks. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, and so just a little bit of background very quickly on NYSERNet. Much like Scenic, we're regional for the New York State region, and our network actually stretches as far south as Ashburn, Virginia, and we pick up University of Delaware on our way down south through Philadelphia. And we've got a high-speed optical and routed network. And of course, our emphasis is on high-speed research and education networking. And we try as much as possible to provide very good and excellent connectivity directly into our backbone network where the highest amount of bandwidth and redundancy is, and connecting our members at anywhere from 10 gig to 100 gig, depending on their needs. And we also have dual 100 gig connectivity to Internet 2, plenty of peerings with cloud providers and a variety of other different content providers that overall is part of the holistic experience for our members' connectivity. And so as I mentioned before, as we tried to get our feet wet with NRP, understanding the Fionas and our configurations, we knew that we had to endow them with really good connectivity. And so we connected them in at 100 gig at our main facility in Syracuse, New York. And we're cognizant of the different sort of models that were already adopted within NRP at the time, or PRP, and then we're going forward about on-prem versus off-prem. And so as a regional, we had the ability to host storage and compute nodes for members to access fairly readily, but also wanted to be flexible enough to allow them to host systems and nodes of their own as they wanted to. And again, the flexibility and the design of Nautilus and the overall cluster doesn't preclude one model or another. So that was very, it was very encouraging, and it was very helpful as we started to work through our own designs. And going on to this next slide, Tom DeFonte is really fond of using this potluck supercomputing sort of model and paradigm as he describes the NRP and Nautilus. And I think it's really apropos. And part of the success and the complexity of Nautilus is that there's all of these different systems that are tied together. Different manufacturers of hardware, different CPUs, memory profiles, storage for sure. And so in order for, I think, Nautilus and the NRP to have been successful, not only does it need to support innovation, but also thrive on flexibility, because that's really where, if we're not flexible, this is just not going to be successful. And part and parcel with flexibility, I think, goes, you have to have order to the chaos. And so what we found, certainly at NYSERNet, is as much as possible templating configurations, templating designs allows for reproducibility, allows for scalability, and allows you to have an environment, I think, that's reproducible and operationally is sound. After all, Nautilus is a live system. It's easy to lose track when you deep in the technical weeds that researchers and folks are getting ample use out of this system second by second. And so to tie this all together, and I think, you really do need to have automation. And we spent a lot of time working with Dima and John and Tom and the team about giving them feedback about how can we make adoption better and easier for us, and workflow is a key part of that, and scaling the adoption. And we got to a point where Dima is saying, well, we've got this Ansible playbook, let's give it a try. So he sent it over to us. And previously, what was quite a bit of time, in some cases hours to set up a new node. And it was really because we were tinkering, getting involved with the hardware, understanding the storage and how to optimize the CPUs. And then here comes the Ansible playbook, and we had a node up and running in 30 minutes. And that was really a big game changer. Now anybody can bring, it's BYOC, bring your own computer, as opposed to bring your own dinner to the potluck meal. And in 30 minutes, you can have a system up and running, federated, and you're part of a national supercomputing infrastructure, which is really impressive. And the technology side is one part of the workflow, and the other part, I think, comes in three parts. It's much less obvious and very, very important. And one aspect of that is the people network. There's there's this great culture and approach to collaboration across the entire NRP team that without that approach, I think it would not have been successful. And there's weekly engineering calls that take place with the NRP, which are phenomenal. If you really want to learn about what's bleeding edge, the next best thing that's coming down the pipe, these are the calls to be on. And then there's also on the back end, there's the matrix messaging system that the entire team relies on to be operationally functional and also for people to communicate and collaborate. Then there's this knowledge network that's tied to the people network for sure, but it's information that is transparent about what Nautilus is, how does it work, the innovation that takes place, and it's a lot of it is the code is all available on GitLab. And so if you want to see how it works, if you need access to the latest playbook or configuration creation file, that's where you go, and it's all there. And I think the third part of it, and the final part, is really there's innovation that's going on at the participant level. And our experience has been that each and every one of them brings their own special use cases. And these use cases actually help to enrich, I think, what the NRP has to offer and the services and capabilities it can entertain and handle. And so we've got great collaborations that have been going on with the University of Delaware, the Museum of Natural History, and now the NYU is just starting to get on board. And we're seeing a wide spectrum of research that's taking place in these respective use cases that I mentioned, and that range from real-time computer vision and object recognition to studying environmental change, atmospheric and oceanographic modeling, content delivery network data distribution models. Folks at the AMNH are working on planetary disk and star cluster dynamics, as well as also STEM and scientific research internships for young women and students. And the folks at NYU, they're starting to talk about computer graphics, animation, and visualization. So there's a broad spectrum, and overall, I think this is what yields a tremendous workflow, and certainly what's made the NRP and Nautilus successful.
Thank you, Jim. And I really appreciate you sort of surfacing that relationship between being flexible, but then making use of templates, playbooks to kind of provide just enough structure to kind of get some resiliency and operational viability from which you flex.
Yeah, just enough. Yeah.
Yeah,